China has a major shortage of women, and birth rates are plummeting. As China faces a population crisis, a new database is asking, are you breed ready? This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest China news, and click that notification bell icon. That way, you get an alert each time we publish a new episode. So, one thing I love about the Chinese Communist Party is that even after all these years, it still manages to surprise me. For decades, China had the one-child policy. It meant most Chinese people were only allowed to have one child or face fines or forced abortion. China, the only country that's officially both anti-choice and anti-life. But because of a cultural preference for boys, this meant a lot of baby girls were aborted or killed after birth. So today, there are more than 30 million more men. So, will China have 30 million men going their own way? Of course not. That's because the Chinese Communist Party's got their backs. There's a variety of solutions, from forcing oppressed ethnic women to marry them, to a thriving human trafficking trade from around the world, to robot wives. You know you've got a problem when robot wives is the least bad among those three options. But a Dutch internet expert, Victor Jeffers, from the nonprofit group GDI Foundation, discovered a new tactic. He discovered an open database of 1.8 million women in China. The average age is 32, but some are as young as 15. The database contains a ton of personal information, including their phone numbers, addresses, and something called breed-ready status. Now, breed-ready could just be a poor translation of some Chinese term. It could be as innocent as saying this woman has children, or the woman has reached childbearing years. After all, the youngest woman with a breed-ready status is 18. But in the context of China's birth rates falling to the lowest level ever, and the Communist Party's general habit of launching large-scale top-down systems of state control to deal with problems, some people are concerned this is a giant database of women meant for breeding. As foreign policy says, female bodies have always been treated as state property that yielded what the country needed. 90% of the database's women are single, and 82% live in Beijing. Beijing is where all the best communist officials live. The database also included fields labeled political and has video, as well as links to what appears to be Facebook profile pages. And since Facebook is banned in China, these girls are very naughty. It is not clear if the database is part of some dating app, a government registry, or some other organization or company. However, even if this is completely innocent, there's the problem that personal information about a lot of women, including full names and addresses, is accessible in a totally open database. No wonder China says it's the biggest victim of hacking. Though since the database is totally open, I'm not sure you could count that as hacking. Jeffers is also the researcher who discovered authorities in Xinjiang were tracking an absurd amount of data about the ethnic Uyghur population, also in a totally open, unsecured database. Now, there are a lot of reasons birth rates are falling in China, besides the fact that there just aren't that many women around. According to state-run media, the cost of raising a child is at an all-time high. But China's population is getting old, and it's so big of a problem, Chinese leaders can't continue to ignore it. Which gives you an idea how bad the situation is. I mean, you know the Great Famine, where 30 to 45 million people died? Chinese authorities today still call the Great Famine the Great Leap Forward. So yeah, dealing with reality is not the Communist Party's strong suit. The one-child policy has been replaced with the slightly more liberal two-child policy. But birth rates are still falling. So, the party has been pushing for women to start pushing out babies. The popular narrative has gone from delayed motherhood is beneficial for women's health to pregnancy during university improves employment chances in the future. Painless abortion ads were seamlessly replaced by painless childbirth ads. As this state-run People's Daily article says, giving birth is not only a family matter, but also a national issue. That must be why factory owners were required to monitor their female workers' menstruation. Just to be clear, that's not a joke. I don't know why you would think that's a joke, but that's what actually happened. So it might not be too much of a stretch to say that someday soon, women in China will face a new baby quota. This time, not limiting how many children she can have, but how many she'll be required to produce for the state. They just gotta be breed ready. So, what do you think? Leave your comments below. And before you go, now is the time I answer a question from a member of the China Uncensored 50-cent Army, fans who support this show with $1 or more per episode through the crowdfunding website Patreon. Benjamin Joel asks, has the air pollution in Beijing improved at all recently? Great question. As I'm sure everyone watching knows, Beijing has gotten a reputation for bad air. In fact, crazy bad levels of pollution. And Beijing isn't even the worst. That article mentioned that on a scale of 0 to 500, Beijing got a 755. In some areas, it's even reached 1,000. So the Chinese Communist Party launched a war on pollution. Anyone found breathing air was immediately executed. But seriously, I could do a whole episode on China's war on pollution. But according to a recent study, Beijing is now no longer among the world's 100 most polluted cities. Granted, 57 of the world's 100 most polluted cities are in China, but Beijing is not among them. So, is China winning the war on pollution? Maybe not. Thanks for your question. If you'd like to hear your question answered on the show, sign up to support China Uncensored on the crowdfunding website Patreon. It's less than the cost of your daily cup of coffee. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.